Welcome to the 700 Club. Iran may be days away from launching a new strike against Israel. Their supreme leader has reportedly given orders to prepare for the attack.
Israel has warned that it will strike back harder than it did before and could go after Iran's nuclear program. Chris Mitchell brings us the story from Jerusalem.
Ayatollah Ali Khamenei made the decision to go prepare for the attack after reviewing the damage from last week's attack by Israel, according to the New York Times. Iran's top general says the Islamic regime will hit Israelis with what he called an unimaginable response.
You can't live in a sea of fire. You are small. You don't even have somewhere to escape.
For all of Iran's bluster, Saudi Arabia's foreign minister thinks the Iranians realize how vulnerable they are and fear a full-on fight with the IDF.
My sense is that at least on their side, that they realize the risks of escalation and would prefer to avoid it.
Axios reports Israeli intelligence suggests the attack could be launched by pro-Iran militias in Iraq and not from Iran itself, possibly to avoid another Israeli strike on Iran. The reports follow Israel's second attack on Iran last week. At the time, Israel destroyed much of Iran's ballistic missile production and its air defense systems. One U.S. official said the damage to Iran's air defense system is so extensive it left Iran basically blind. Israel did not hit either Iran's oil facilities or its nuclear facilities in that attack. However, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced at an IDF officer's graduation ceremony that the nuclear sites are Israel's chief concern.
The supreme objective that I have set for the IDF and the security services is to prevent Iran from attaining nuclear weapons. Halting the nuclear program has been and remains our chief concern. I have not taken, we have not taken, and we will not take our eyes off this objective. Obviously, I cannot detail our plans to achieve the supreme goal.
And while tensions with Iran escalate, Israel is hitting Hezbollah targets throughout Lebanon, while IDF troops are advancing in the southern part of the country. The military campaign is taking place amid talks of a ceasefire deal and questions if a ceasefire could hold. Netanyahu says these talks miss Israel's top concern.
The main point is our ability and determination to enforce security, thwart attacks against us, and act against the arming of our enemies, as necessary and despite any pressure and constraints. This is the main point.
Thursday was one of the deadliest for Israel, where 7 were killed in Hezbollah attacks. The IDF also released this interview, where a United Nations Relief and Works Agency employee described how Hamas commandeered UNRWA vehicles as a form of defense.
Their thought process was that when they get into an UNRWA vehicle, then they are protected. Yes, they are safe because it's an agency vehicle.
Many see this as more evidence that UNRWA has been exploited and infiltrated by the terror group at its highest levels. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Clearly, they were infiltrated at the highest level, and what doesn't make any sense to me is the UN isn't recognizing that. And the current UN head of UNRWA is insisting that this organization is clean and that they're essential to a two-state solution. I would urge all of you, please make sure that your elected representative knows how you feel. That at the end of the day, we should not be spending any money on UNRWA. We shouldn't be sending money to an organization that has clearly had terrorists on their salaries. Those terrorists under a charter that says their purpose, Hamas, the purpose of Hamas is to wipe Israel off the map and to kill Jews. We can't support that with our taxpayer money. When we're looking at the current situation in the Middle East, some of it is, are we weary of this horrible war? And the answer, I think, quite clearly is yes, we are. But Israel is on the verge of a significant victory, one that could literally change the Middle East and change it for the good. The ideology coming out of Iran is the source of all of this. They're the source of the ideology for Hezbollah. Muslim Brotherhood is the source for Hamas. If there's a significant military defeat where Hezbollah no longer occupies southern Lebanon, where Hamas no longer exists in Gaza, and Iran is shown on the world stage to be powerless. There was a strike. Israel struck them, and they didn't lose a single fighter. Iran is clearly defenseless against them. And so if they do launch an attack, what would happen next? Would Israel completely dominate them in a military engagement and show the whole world that they're defenseless and that they're powerless and their ideology has no strength to it? That would be incredible, and that would lead to peace. That is a wonderful thing to hope for. So in her hour of need, let's make sure we're standing with Israel, and especially we're not funding her enemies. In other news, a new development in the controversy over President Biden's remark about Donald Trump's supporters. Wendy Griffith has that story and more from the CBN Newsroom. Wendy?
Gordon, White House press officials altered the official transcript of the call where President Biden called Trump supporters garbage. The president made his remarks in response to comedian Tony Hinchcliffe, who described Puerto Rico as a floating island of garbage at Trump's rally in Madison Square Garden. According to the Associated Press, White House aides said the revised transcript showed that the president was criticizing the comedian, not the millions of Americans who support Trump. The AP reports the federal workers who document such remarks for posterity objected to that change, and congressional Republicans sent a letter to the administration saying, quote, White House staff cannot rewrite the words of the President of the United States to be more politically on message. Well, tens of millions of Americans aren't waiting for Tuesday to vote in this year's elections. They've already cast their ballots as 2024 is seeing record-breaking early voting. Reports indicate both parties taking advantage of the opportunity. CBN's Brody Carter reports on the early participation.
With little time before Election Day, more Americans than ever are coming out to cast their ballot. More than 55 million voters have already done so, either by mail or in person. And folks here in Virginia, they tell me their reasons for doing so varies, whether it be using it as a skip day for work or maybe to avoid those long lines on Tuesday the 5th. Some even worry for the potential of political violence.
Early voting is surging nationwide, already accounting for roughly 40% of the total votes cast in 2020.
So we're seeing an increase in early voting. 2020, we had 74,000 vote early in person. We're going to break that number. We have about 65,000 right now.
Key states like Georgia, North Carolina, and Arizona are seeing unprecedented early voting numbers. Nearly 3.3 million Georgians have already cast their ballots. Early turnout this year also shows a notable shift with Republican voters.
6 days from now, we can turn the page forever on this failed and corrupt administration.
After previously discouraging it, Donald Trump now urges supporters to vote early, and party leaders are seeing the difference.
First of all, we've been advertising, we've been encouraging, and they are responding. And second of all, they're fed up. That's the motivation. They want to see the country turn around, go in another direction.
Republicans hope to improve turnout and avoid mechanical issues that some believe hindered key races in 2020.
As a past election official, we have one of the best staff and processes in place to keep and prevent those things from happening.
Meanwhile, Democrats are working to sustain their pandemic-era momentum in early voting. In Pennsylvania, for example, Democrat mail-in ballots outnumber Republican returns by over 350,000.
I think what's most important about early voting is that regardless of where you may align politically, that you exercise your right to vote in this country. And your right to early vote reinforces how strong our democracy is and sets an example for the world.
Still, with talk of election integrity concerns continuing, some GOP-led states have introduced stronger ID requirements.
Well, we can't really talk about security plans because then they won't be secure.
With early turnout numbers likely to climb, the message is clear. Voters on both sides are determined to make their voices heard. Reporting in Virginia Beach, Brody Carter, CBN News.
Thanks, Brody. Well, turning from elections and voting to entertainment, bluegrass music continues to see a resurgence with an estimated 20 million Americans calling themselves fans. While this mountain genre can trace its history to Scots-Irish American immigrants, it's still reaching younger generations. CBN's Lori Johnson introduces us to one rising star who credits God for her success.
At just 10 years old, Carly Arrowwood fell in love with the fiddle. Now, at age 28, she's considered one of the best bluegrass fiddlers around.
I feel like going home, coming on.
Carly has also earned the Triple Threat title, recognizing her as an outstanding musician, singer, and songwriter, while already racking up numerous awards in her young career.
I'm very blessed. Just right out the gate, it's like all of these, I don't know, accomplishments and things that I've been able to do through the years is just a testament to the Lord's faithfulness.
She and her band play various forms of bluegrass, including Christian.
Bluegrass gospel is pretty popular throughout the bluegrass music scene. You know, we're very passionate about our gospel music, and it's important for us to let people know that the Lord loves them and that he calls them out of their sin and into the right way to live, and that's to glorify Jesus and know that he died for their sins.
She's part of a new generation.
We are blessed to have a lot of friends our age in it that are also believers and are also, passionate about it like we are.
Carly and her band play instruments made by Christian craftsmen, like this Hooper guitar. They all have 1 Corinthians 10:31 engraved on the neck block. Do all to the glory of God.
Carly plays a fiddle fashioned by Bob Kogut, who prays over each instrument that it will be used to further the kingdom of God.
I guess that's why I got the fiddle.
Carly's songwriting reflects her faith walk.
When you're saved, he calls you and you're his, and he chooses you and you're his forever.
Carly hopes fans worldwide will hear that message in both her live performances and recordings.
I pray that whoever listens to it, whether they're our age or younger or older, that it comes across and that it pierces their hearts, or that the Lord pierces their hearts with it.
And while that remains her primary focus, Carly does have her eyes on a secondary goal.
It'd be nice to play the Opry one day. I don't know if that'll ever happen. It's just whatever the Lord decides.
So remember the name and faith of Carly Arrowwood as more people discover this rising bluegrass sensation. Lori Johnson, CBN News, Newton, North Carolina.
We're not going to be forgetting her name, Carly Arrowwood. What a talent. And Terry, I'm from West Virginia. You know that. So that music is in my soul.
It is in your soul. I know that. Well, that is a life well focused and well directed.